You can like purchase textiles for very inexpensive compared to any other art.
Charlotte is a city built on stories of growth, creativity, and connection. So today on Local Roots, we're having a conversation about uncovering how global cultures, histories, and ideas show up right here in our own backyard. So we're stepping inside one of the Mint Museum's most extraordinary exhibitions, designing Dynamism, Cuba textiles from our DR Congo, the Wesley Mancini collection. At first glance, these works are breathtaking pieces of art from halfway around the world. Through the vision of Wesley Mancini, they became something deeply connected to Charlotte, showing how design can bridge continents, inspire creativity, and deepen the cultural fabric of the Queen City. I want to welcome in my guest, designer Wesley Mancini. Wesley, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor, this discussion. I'm so excited about this because I've heard you speak at the Mint Museum. You had an amazing opening, and then you had several shows after for people to come hear about these specific textiles. So just thanks for being here.
Thanks for asking me
Yeah.
and for your interest.
Yes. So first, let's get into when we talk about these textiles and these designs. I'm actually going to hold one for the incredible. It's incredible work back and front. Um, Talk to me about how this all came to be, your interest in the Cuba area, Congo.
It's hard to say exactly when that was sparked, but as a fabric designer exposed to the world of textiles, and every culture has their own kind of folk art. Um, and so, like, you can have ikat from Asia, uh, shibori from Japan, but from the Congo, they make Kuba textiles.
We also showed a map of the area that we're talking about, so for people to know. Talk to me more about your inspiration.
My inspiration based, my textiles I based on them.
Mhm.
Well, their patterns are really interesting because there's no two alike, kind of like a fingerprint.
Mhm.
The whole history behind the Kuba textiles is pretty astounding. It started in the 1700s, and they still manufacture them by hand. The men, we get the fiber, which is a palm leaf, and they thread it down to threads almost, and then it goes through several processes. And then they weave. The men weave plain weave, and it's only like maybe 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet because that's how wide the fiber is, how long it is. So any piece that's longer than that, they're sewn together because it's all units of that.
Mhm.
Um, After it's been woven, then it gets given to the women, and the women are the embroiderers, and they create the patterns. And they don't start with a drawing like we always draw everything we do and paint it and make sure it's all perfect in the repeat.
Mhm.
Where there, they just start in the corner and just move on, which is pretty amazing because they're flowing from one geometric shape to another, to another, to another without it seeming, with it being seamless.
Yeah. And we're showing video right here of exactly what Wesley is talking about. And it's, I think when you go to the exhibition at the Mint Museum, this is at the Randolph location, there is a sample for people to be able to see how the process all starts. And it's just mind blowing to think through these materials what the outcome is. And just to also emphasize when you said patterns not repeated as they're sitting there just doing this by hand, learning about this, what else can you kinda add into that conversation?
Well, the craftsmanship is just impeccable.
Yes, Wesley brought in samples for us to
So
be able to sh
this is the face of the fabric. You can see how the geometrics just bramble goes from one side, just evolves into a completely different pattern. It's hard to kind of hold. But how we would embroider is we would stick a needle through the fabric and then back through the fabric and then like that. That's
Mm.
what we do in the United States. And at the back of the fabric is usually just this mess, hodgepodge of color and knots. But the back of the fabric here is just solid. So that alone is amazing. They put their needle, like, under the thread as opposed to through the cloth,
Right.
under the thread of the cloth. So that makes it a lot more tedious. It takes a year to make one of these.
Wow. Wow.
And it's usually done by, well, I said already women, but young girls who are making something for their dowry. These are currency. They don't get used other than money. um, so they're used for ceremonies, and that's how they have wealth. Prestige cloths. They're called prestige cloths. Also, as the more you have, the more prestige you have.
Yeah. And for people to know, I know a lot of people, especially here in the Charlotte community, absolutely know who you are. But you are, if not one of the biggest designers when it comes to textiles, correct? Did I get that correct?
I'm definitely behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. But kind of explain that, because I think even when I was learning about that, design is everywhere. I mean, everything is designed, and I'm taking your words. But a lot of times we wear clothes that it says one designer on it, but it really could be coming from you.
Be coming from
Well,
someone
I shouldn't
else.
say clothes, but you're because you're more upholstery, but I'm
Right.
saying, like, let's say fabric, a couch. If you buy a couch and it could have somebody else's name on it, it doesn't necessarily mean it was designed by that person.
Correct.
Okay, give me a little bit more
So
to
I have contracts with the major mills in the country. And once I design something, the mill takes it and sells it to either furniture manufacturers or decorative jobbers. And jobbers are people who make the fabric books that if you go see a decorator, they'll show a book of fabrics. Those are jobbers. So if a furniture company is putting together a Bob Timberlake collection, let's say of furniture, they'll buy fabrics and then they become Bob Timberlake fabrics. Or interior designers that are pretty well known that have fabric collections, they just buy my fabrics and put their names on it. So I think I use the example of Nate Berkus
Mhm.
having a page in Architectural Digest, and it was his new fabric, but I never met him. He didn't design a thing. I designed it, and he just bought it. So it's like the analogy that I said before about everyone wearing clothes. They bought those clothes. So in the fabric world, then that's their collection. But because it's similar with the interior textiles. If you buy it, it becomes like yours, like you designed it.
Right. It's fascinating because people don't realize that it's you behind the fabric.
Mhm.
I mean, is there is that just part of the business? Is that just that's just I mean, even though you could have thousands and thousands of designs out there, is that just kind of, hey, you know what? They might not know it was me. Just
Well, I have to design looks for many different customers. So like contemporary versus traditional or feminine, more masculine. If I had a look, um, then it would be a
yeah.
specific look, but I'm designing for the world. So that's one reason why that. But the other reason is the mill doesn't really want their designer to be known,
Oh,
because it's better to
yes.
keep it hush hush.
Right, right. Um, when we talk about your exhibition that's up right now, we're going to get more into that. But just quickly, what do people need to know when they come? I was really amazed by all walks of life here in the Charlotte area that, were just intrigued about to be able to see the full show. What do people need to be able to know when they come by?
Well, first of all, that no two are alike, in that everyone was embroidered by a different person, and yet there's a cohesive to the whole show. So it's a people. Like the closest thing we have to an art form that many women make are quilts.
Okay.
And quilts, come in all kind. You can have really good quilts and really not so good quilts.
Yeah.
But these people all seem to, once they do it really well because it's genius
Yeah.
between the repeating and then just the craftsmanship.
I think that's what is the most incredible thing. I mean, I know you showed the backing of it, um, but just as we take like a fabric like this and you see the backing of this, you can be able to say, you can see where the machine went through.
Mm.
Um, but When you talk to people who see these fabrics, especially from this area in Africa, what kinds of things do people share with you? Or what have they said of like when I walk through, I know how it just kind of you could see they look similar, but they were so different at the same time.
Mm. I thought the way the museum showed the work made them look more like you're looking at the graphic, like the art of it
Mm,
versus craft of it. So almost a um, separation.
mm.
But to me, you have to remember that they're fabric and that that technology or craftsmanship is really important.
Yeah,
But the graphics of each of the pieces is pretty amazing. And to focus on fabric in a way that it's not fabric is interesting.
it is. It really is. Were you surprised by the turnout?
No.
So we're gonna take a break right here on Local Roots, but, coming up, I'm gonna show you pictures from the opening of the Wesley Mancini collection at the Randolph location of the Mint Museum. It was incredible. You had hundreds of people who came out. I think it was standing room only from what I understand. So we're gonna show you and take you there next.
All these skirts are also made pretty good with them, but you can see their seeds. See right down the middle there is a seed. And these are pieced together.
There you are, explaining exactly what we're seeing there at the Mint Randolph location. So, Wesley, take us inside. That was one of the shows that I happened to attend of you speaking and kind of educating all of us on textiles. But there, when people come to hear you speak, just kind of take us through what you were explaining.
Just explaining the general craftsmanship and how they start the design work from without a drawing or cartouche. Um, Also, general about textiles and how textiles are the least uh, recognized art form of the art forms.
Mm, really?
Yeah, so you can like purchase textiles for very inexpensive
Mhm.
compared to any other art.
That
And
makes sense.
then a lot of like all of these pieces are from unknown people. So usually textiles don't have a name attached to them. And the thing about textiles is that you're born into it and you live your whole life surrounded by it, whether clothing or upholstery. And then when you pass away, you're passed away in fabric. So your entire life is, unless you're a nudist, you're surrounded by fabric. And so I think everyone can relate to textiles. And because it's so ubiquitous that we might take it for granted.
Mm.
But for instance, luxury, handmade items are luxury, especially in Europe. But uh, hand woven fabric is considered craft.
Mm.
So there's a hierarchy difference. There's right there is separating luxury and craft not being the same thing.
But there are luxury textiles. I mean, your fabrics can be very expensive.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the pricing of like art.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a
All right.
difference
I gotcha. Absolutely. There's a difference of Picasso
in
and
fabric.
fabric. There you go.
Yeah.
When we look at the history here, talk to us a little bit more about the people, so people can feel connected here in the Charlotte area to this area where these designs are inspired.
It's an arid place where they live, and then I don't want to call them huts, but they have their homes are made out of natural materials, and there's a lot of dirt. So the dyes they use are tree bark, different kinds of tree bark, and also dirt, mud, and a fermented bark mixing with dirt makes the black. But other colors, and not until like the 18th century did trading start happening
Mhm.
with the Congo from far as away as the Maldives, where the cowrie shells started getting influenced, but also some dyes that weren't typical or indigenous to the
Okay.
Kuba people. So you might see like a purple. Um, but they're never bright colors. They're very subdued because it's raffia and raffia. Take color like silk would take color, very bright, vibrant. raffia is very, uh, it's just absorbs only so much.
I know I've asked you this in terms of your inspiration, but how did you find this specific area and go, wow, this is inspiring to me with these cloths?
Um,
Were you fascinated by how they were constructed, or was it the
there's
actual
a
design?
there's a to me there's a perfection to the fabric because first of all the craftsmanship is just like unrivaled. Second, the geometric is actually probably the first abstraction in design in history because it started in the 1700s. You don't have abstract art until, hundreds of years later. So that's a remarkable thing too. And then it's a people, which is another remarkable
Yeah.
thing. It's not just, like an artist,
Right.
but it's society and that they've been making these for hundreds of years.
And you mentioned some women really make these while they're pregnant. Explain that part of the history a little bit.
Because it can take a year to make one of these. So
Just the
just one.
one square.
Yeah, one
Oh
square.
wow.
So the men do the easy part, and then the women embroider. So when they're pregnant, they would have the time to
Sit there.
embroider so that they're not doing manual labor elsewhere. And women that are really good at making them can have that as their career, to say. But
Do they
most
make a
girls,
lot of money, or is it still very little?
still very
Very
little.
little.
Because you can buy these for a
Mm.
couple $100s.
Yeah. So you then see the designs, you have your own inspiration, then you create your own, and then that's when it can then turn into a couch or something else or whatever you want to upholster. Is that how that works?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then and people are able to see, oh, this is a Wesley Mancini design, or you said they still won't be able to see that, like they don't even know if they are purchasing one of your designs or not.
They don't. There was a time when my name was on labels earlier on in my career,
Mhm.
and it was primarily in Canada.
Okay.
JF Fabrics had rugs, upholstery, decorative trimming, velvet book fabrics I designed in Peru. They had a bunch of different collections, and trimming collections used to have my name on it, and but woven fabrics domestically. Um, Calico Corners used to sell under my name,
Really?
but
Do you ever walk into somebody's house and
oh yeah,
in your mind go,
yeah. I say, oh, that's mine.
that's
I
mine?
designed that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens. But movies too.
That you'll see your designs.
Pretty Woman. And I don't know if you saw Pretty Woman.
Of course I have.
In the
Yes.
Plaza Hotel where they're staying, there's two chairs with my fabric, and also
Right.
the trimming is mine. And then like Jumanji, the original one had mine. Oh, Austin Powers has. Movies have my
I
fabrics in
mean, Wesley, but that's just amazing. I know you don't I mean, especially me doing and learning more about you designing. I'm fascinated. I'm blown away. I mean, you have designed so much.
it. Well, about 15 years ago, I knew I designed 20,000 fabrics. Then when I signed on this new the mill I was working for, counting system all changed. So now I don't know how many I've just. But there was a time when I had 31 employees and designers from all over the world, from London, Seoul, Korea, Lebanon, Kabul, Tokyo.
Just incredible.
And they all moved here
Mhm.
to work with me. So we have artists here that wouldn't be here.
So this is why so many people are fascinated by Wesley Mancini's collection and looking at these designs that are coming from the Kuba people. We're going to talk more about opening night. We got to get to opening night. It was amazing coming up after this break. Stay with us on Local Roots. Well, welcome back into Local Roots. I'm Alicia Barnes, and I'm here with Wesley Mancini. So I have to ask you, there is a connection with North Carolina as to how'd you get your hands on these fabrics from the Kuba people?
I bought a lot from a anesthesiologist, Jim Langton,
Okay.
who lives in Winston-Salem, and he worked his summers with Doctors Without Borders or something like that.
Mhm.
And so he was in Cuba when he went to summers and he got to know the royal family and just the culture. And he would buy items like these textiles and other sculptures and bring them home and for his collection, but he also sold them. But that's typical. Other, they call them runners, will
Mm.
go to Africa, and buy things, or other countries, and then bring the artifacts here
Right.
and then sell them. So that's one way of getting the
And kind
textiles.
of collecting them too. We have to talk about opening night at the Mint Museum, at the Randolph location too. Very important to know that's where you're going is to Randolph. Tell me all about the show. Let people know the name, where they can see it, how long is it going to be up, and just kind of this is opening night too for people watching. These are the pictures that we're seeing. It was beyond sold out.
The um the opening night was full of people from all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, the state, mostly High Point and Hickory, furniture people, fabric people in the industry, organizations like the International Society of Furniture Designers, um, so women in the industry, but other organizations, ASID, people in the industry were very interested in textiles. And while Kuba textiles show up in our industry, it's not that common. Like,
Really?
yeah, if I've designed, let's say 25,000 fabrics, maybe a dozen were inspired by Kuba textiles. So it's a niche. Um,
I know you said some I can't remember the line, but it did make me laugh when you said about ethnicity. You said because a lot of times when you design things that look too ethnic.
too ethnic.
Talk
Yeah.
to me about that.
We You want fabrics that can relate to more people than a specific culture. So if it's very specific, then it's going to just kind of relate to or attract one audience. So to kind of
Broaden.
broaden the horizon there.
They're so beautiful. I mean, especially even I know when you go through the exhibition and you see them next to each other, they're so different but similar at the same time. Um,
Are you referring to the hanging factory?
yes, yes.
The ones that I designed?
Yes, yes. But it flows well. But when you go up close and you see, I mean, it's just so different, and there's just so much work that you can be able to see in your design. For people though in the Charlotte area, tell me, give me the name of the exhibition.
It's designing dynamism, dynamism, um, the DR Congo, the Wesley Mancini collection.
See, I had him say it because I always stumble on Dynamism.
Yeah, you did
Um,
it.
but it's they can see it until when?
It's the 23rd of August.
Okay. It was so important for me to have you on Local Roots because I just think it's so interesting to be able to see how we're all connected. I know you mentioned opening night. There was a lot of industry people. I've actually been able to see Wesley's show at the Randolph location, and you can come and hear you speak. And I was blown away by how many different people filled the room. There really wasn't a common denominator. You had older, younger, different nationalities. It was incredible to see that we were all connected during your conversation.
I think that's because it's fabric, and everyone relates to fabric one way or another.
Because we all wear fabric.
And it's surprising how many people, women, tell me they collect fabric.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
'cause
could
I
see that.
collect fabric, but
Right.
it's my business. I
Right.
have dressers and boxes, and I have
Boxes.
just as many Kuba textiles at home as that's in the
That's
exhibition.
in the exhibition. That's incredible. Wesley Mancini, thank you so much for being a part of Local Roots.
Hey, well, what's that last one real quick? Hold on. What's
Yeah.
that? I wanted to show off that last one that you got.
This is
Yeah.
another example from the Kuba people, but it's not uh, an embroidery. Oops, here. It is a patchwork. These started as when their fabrics would have a hole.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
there's a hole here and here. They would put a patch over that hole, and then over time, the pattern became uh, a look. So this is a fabric I designed, inspired by uh, that look. But there could be another show of patchworks
Right.
from the Congo versus embroideries.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So hopefully you can be able to check it out. What's the date that the exhibition is up until?
August 23rd.
August 23rd. And also too, um, while you're there, you'll be able to grab a book. They're designing Dynamism. There you go. Nailed it. Thanks for joining us on Local Roots. Thanks for streaming on Queen City News Plus, and we'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.